Hello, my friends, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Sharri, and this is the place where we talk about unapologetically redefining midlife, especially for women. And redefining midlife with a touch of elegance, reinvention, and even a whisper of Paris. So today, I want to talk about something real and something that, if I'm totally honest, has been quietly simmering inside of me for years, actually. And it's this feeling that I haven't yet found my tribe. Now, if you're nodding right now or you feel a lump rising in your throat, this is the episode for you. Let's talk about friendship, belonging, and the strange loneliness that can sneak in even when we've done all the right things. Well, we're told from a young age that someday we're going to find our people, right? The women who laugh at the same jokes, who show up with soup when we're sick, who celebrate when we have a major life achievement and, hold our hands when through the sad times. Someone who just gets us without any kind of explanation. But here's the thing that no one told us. Sometimes that tribe never fully forms, or it forms and then it dissolves, or it changes, or you change and you outgrow it. After my divorce, I thought I'd finally find that inner circle, a group of women who, like me, maybe were navigating a new season, a new chapter. They were open-hearted, curious, deep thinkers. So I tried groups. I reconnected with former work buddies. I went to retreats. I got more certifications. I paid for incredible and amazing travel experiences. And while I met wonderful people, kind, smart, soulful women, I have to say, I often felt like the outsider, like the one that didn't quite fit. There's a unique ache that comes with the realization, that I don't fit. I remember back to, and it wasn't that long ago, it was a Victoria magazine tour. Now, I love Victoria magazine. So I thought this is absolutely perfect for me. I was sitting, though, on this little bus that was taking us to different events, and I was with the group, and it was not a large group. I think it was a group of probably 10 to 12. And I wondered what was wrong with me. I couldn't seem to connect. Even though I loved the magazine, I loved England, but I felt like I didn't fit in. I felt very alone in that group, and it made me incredibly sad. But here's what I've come to understand after lots of reflection on this, and that is the myth of finding your tribe is based on the assumption that we stop evolving. And you and I, we're still becoming, we're still evolving. We're still, we are. I don't think we ever really stop changing and reinventing if we continue to strive to become our next best selves, whatever that is. But let's be real. Making meaningful friendships after age 50 is hard. And we all know why. Everyone seems to be juggling something. Empty nests, maybe that don't feel quite so empty because adult children boomerang back or constantly need our help, both financially and emotionally. That has been a major change in my life as my daughter and her children have re-entered my life. Then there are aging parents who suddenly need more care. I have 3 friends who are all dealing with the final chapters of their mother's lives, which is incredibly time consuming and emotionally sad. And as one friend said, it's hard when the relationship changes and you become the parent and the parent the child. There are new dynamics in relationships because partners retire suddenly are around all the time. Very different from those decades when you had your career and you were raising children. Friend groups dissipate. I have found that people just aren't around all the time. I live in Boston most of the time, and my friends, my college friends, and my daughter and my son are all in Minnesota, and these are colder climates. And that means anyone who can go south in the wintertime. I don't know what it's like for those of you who live, say in Australia or Canada or Europe. Where do people go at various times of the year? But that means they're not around all the time. Summers here in Boston, everyone's off to their cottages up in New England, or they're on the Cape or in the islands or whatever. And I have to say, in my building in the summertime, it's almost totally empty on weekends. It's incredible. So people aren't around. Divorces happen. There's painful endings. There might even be new marriages, there are new relationships, but there's certainly grief, also health changes. So here you are, newly single. Maybe you're retired. Maybe you're just hungry for a deeper connection because you no longer have that work environment and you're trying to find your tribe. Yet everyone around you seems, well, how can I say it, but busy or already bounded with another group. They've got their tribe and they're uninterested in going deeper. Recently I sat in one of my book club gatherings, and it's a new gathering for me here in Boston. Lovely women sipping wine, chatting about the book. But I felt a loneliness that I really couldn't quite name. I wanted to talk more about life, their lives, not just plot points in the book or events that are happening around us. I wanted to get to know these women on a deeper level. I wanted to know what they're dealing with. Are they thinking about reinvention? Are they dealing with certain regrets or dreams not realized? But the conversation stayed on the surface. And I went home that night feeling lonelier than before I actually went to the book club. And it sounds really strange, but I find myself wanting to leave every event I go to shortly after I arrive. I have to make myself stay. Why is that? Well, there's this strange paradox, and I've kind of worked through this. I don't know if I have it right, but this is what I think at the moment. I think there's this strange paradox that comes with personal growth. The more you grow, the more you change, the more you shift things around you, sometimes the more disconnected you feel. You start to question everything. You shed old identities, you start to make braver decisions, you start to change homes, you downsize, you kind of downsize even in your lifestyle. You make braver decisions, you start showing up as your truest self. You don't have to wear a hat. You're not going to work. You're not taking on a role. You are just you. And then you wonder why it feels like people are quietly drifting away. But I want you to hear me on this because I've had to work through it myself. This is not failure. It is just a stretching of your soul. It's uncomfortable, absolutely, but it's also where the real you starts to emerge, starts to show up every single day. Not the roles you play, but the real you. And sometimes your tribe hasn't appeared yet because you're still becoming the person that you truly are underneath. And the person that maybe your tribe will actually recognize when they see it. So let's reimagine what a tribe looks like. It doesn't have to be a big group of women who meet weekly for brunch or meet monthly for book club or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be perfectly curated friendships that look good on Instagram. We all know what those look like. Your tribe might be a friend that you met online who messages you with soul lifting quotes. I have to say, there's a couple of people in this particular YouTube channel that respond all the time, that always comment, and you know who you are. And actually, I feel connected to you. I feel like I'd love to meet you for a cup of coffee because you just come up with those little comments and those little questions that truly are soul lifting. It might be a neighbor who waves and asks how you're really doing. Maybe it's a coach. My business coach, I connect with her in a way that I don't connect with a lot of other people. It might be a podcast that you feel like that person is talking to you, or a book club where you feel fully seen and you're having those really deep conversations. It might, like I just shared, it might be a community just like this one. Virtual, yes, but deeply real, because the things that are shared are deep. The questions that are asked are deep. They're not surface. Now, just to reflect for a moment, I want you to think about that maybe, just maybe, your tribe starts with you. Maybe your deepest relationship begins when you commit to showing up fully for yourself. Because when we stop wanting to be invited and we just start creating, everything changes. When we step into who we really are, we no longer care, to a certain extent, whether or not we have a tribe, and yet we do. And the tribe starts with ourselves. That's why I created this space, this channel, my podcast, wrote the book. This next chapter community is really for women who want to really redefine midlife and beyond. And if you're not one of those women, you're not on this call. You're not listening to this channel. This is a community that has some of the same deep drives, deep passions to make this next chapter our best chapters that you may not find at the book club. You may not find at the gym. You may not find even in your long-term friendships. In this particular group, on this channel, we talk about midlife reinvention, but it's also this space where women who kind of feel that in-between feeling, that you're not really who you once were, but you're not quite where you want to be, but we can gather together. I hope that makes some sense. I may not be perfectly expressing those feelings, but I want you to know in this particular group, we don't need to be perfect. We don't need to have it all figured out. We don't need to be healed. There's nothing really that is causing us to, seek something else outside. It's really to talk about what is going on here within you, within you. What is it that's going on? What are you struggling with? What are your challenges? We just need to be curious. We need to be open. We need to be supportive of each other and accept that we can gather together in this very strange place. It's not traditional. It's not what our mothers did. It may not be what our friends are doing, but we can have that kind of community. I'm still building my tribe. And if you're looking to, and you're thinking, gosh, where is my tribe? Maybe, just maybe, we're here. Maybe this is our tribe. Maybe we're each other's tribe. This is where it begins. Strange concept, isn't it? But something about it feels so good. When I read the comments on this particular YouTube channel, I have to say, I feel a connection. I feel so many of us are sitting around a table and talking about what really matters. So, chime in. I want to thank you so much for spending time with me and with everyone else who's listening to this episode. And if you found a bit of inspiration today, and you want to do share, go ahead, share, ask questions. This might be your tribe. And if you like this conversation, give me a thumbs up. That totally matters with YouTube. Subscribe if you haven't already. And do share this video with any friend who you think is in that same place of wanting to design her fabulous next chapter. Like I said, leave a comment below. This is our community. Let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, I want you to stay curious, stay elegant, and remember your most fabulous next chapter is still ahead of you. A biento.